how's it going? My name is Eric Tereshinsky, and welcome to the Master Indie YouTube channel. I'm working on programming a prototype for a sword fighting game for the HTC Vive. As you can see, that's what I am playing right now. Now, get out of here, I'm trying to record a video. So yeah, after that montage of me trying to pretend to be a ninja in front of some royalty-free dark metal music, I don't really know what that was. I figured I'd take a minute to actually talk to you about this game and what the programming's been like and what some of my plans for this game are. So first of all, I apologize for the microphone quality. I am using the Vive mic, but I did figure out that if you just use a piece of double-sided tape and some paper towel on the nose piece, it dramatically reduces that breathing sound that you hear in videos, so hopefully the mic shouldn't be too bad. So quickly, I want to say one thing about the artwork. I am just a programmer, and I didn't make any of this artwork. I just found it on the Unity Asset Store because I'm just testing things out, and this is like the first sword I found, and this is like probably the third sword fighting character that I tried out, and this one seemed to have the animations that really work for a sword fighting game. So of course the game is going to evolve, and there's actually going to be an environment when you play the game. Right now, I'm just testing out how the gameplay is going to work. So it doesn't keep score or anything. It just tells you when he hits you and when you kill him. Okay, so one thing I want to say about the gameplay really quickly that I'm sure a couple people are going to ask me, and something that I've noticed when I've been playtesting this game and having some friends try it out. And that is the first thing that I see everyone do when they play this game is they try playing it like this. Oh wait, I'm going to wait for him to come back closer to me. They just like go, hiya, 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 like that. Or maybe they'll kind of like gingerly kind of like almost like pet him with the sword, because I think a lot of people don't realize is that I'm trying to make this like a real sword fighting game. It will not apply any damage to him unless you actually do a real swing or a real stab. So like most people I see, they'll like do it and like it still isn't quite enough, but once they like actually get it and they feel a hit, they're like, oh, that's how to swing, and it's just something you kind of get a feel for. A couple other things. Well, I just blocked him without even looking. A couple other things I want to say about the sword. I mean, regardless of it being a placeholder model, like these are all things that I've worked on that can transfer over to any weapon. But a few people who may be familiar with Unity and the Vive may have think that I just childed the sword to the controller and that's it. And technically that is what I did, but I also added a script to actually add a little bit, whoop, get out of here, I'm trying to show off the sword. If you watch, I actually added a little bit of a swaying motion when you move the sword, when it's just like hanging at your side like this. And I feel like this makes the sword feel a lot more like it has some weight to it, and it doesn't feel like it's just like a hologram or something in your hands. Because I've noticed a lot of games when you just child a model to the hand, and the thing is bigger than what the controller is, it just feels like you're holding a hologram of that object and not the actual object itself. So that's why I added a little bit of sway to it when you move it around. But one cool thing is once you actually start fighting, the sword becomes very accurate and the sway goes away. Another thing that you may notice about the sword is it actually has some motion blur to it. That took some experimenting around with code to figure out what way of doing motion blur would actually work best. But I really like how the motion blur turned out. It made it look a lot more realistic when you're swinging, and it almost completely eliminates the problem with when you don't have motion blur and you have a long object that moves. You kind of see like it looks like the ticking hands of a clock, and you can see it move, kind of like maybe if you've seen like a video of a helicopter or something, and the blades like seem to just like move in a weird way, if that makes any sense. But the motion blur just makes it look realistic and completely hides that. And one other awesome thing is that I'll be able to just take this motion blur and play around with the color and size of it and stuff like that. And I'll be able to make it easily have like power-ups and stuff. And like, I don't know, when you hit this gem, your sword turns like fiery lightsaber, I don't know, or something fun along those lines. Or like, oh, you do double damage when you have this power-up. Okay, so one other thing I want to talk about that I'm sure a bunch of people are probably going to ask me about is how in the heck are you supposed to play this game without hitting your furniture or walls or other people or your computer monitor or TV? Yes, that is totally going to happen. I think this is just going to be one of those games where you're going to have to be extra careful and give yourself extra room and make sure everything breakable and people are totally out of the way when you play this game. Because so far, this game is still just a prototype, and I've already hit my like walls on like 4 separate occasions. I'm pretty sure I have it on video of me hitting the walls like 4 different times, and that doesn't even include all the times that I've hit my low ceilings here. So luckily I don't have anything that can be damaged other than my controller itself. But yeah, this is just going to be one of those games. People are gonna smash their TVs. I'm gonna put like a big warning when you start up the game that says, be extra careful when you play this game. So one thing I want to mention that's really cool about a sword game, while we're talking about, playing a Vive game in a small space, um, is the fact that a sword game actually gives you longer reach, so it makes you feel like your room is a lot bigger because it's only the handle of the sword that can't go through your walls or through your chaperone bounds. Um, Whereas the blade of the sword, I can stab the blade of the sword into the wall, and it just gives me like, I don't know, 2 or 3 more feet of reach in my virtual space than I otherwise would be able to. And this sword feels really real after playing for quite a while. Like when I take the headset off, it's so strange to look at the controller and being like, whoa, where did the blade of my sword go? I mean, even to this day, I've been working on this game for, I don't know, probably a week in total now. And every time I take the headset off, it still feels weird to look at the controller and not see the blade there. So it really feels like you can reach out in the world and touch things with this blade. Eventually, I gotta do something with the sword or with the ground because right now you can just stab the sword straight through the ground. Um, but yeah, it's just like an excellent thing that just makes a small space feel bigger. So a few people are probably going to ask me, will this game be supported on the Oculus Rift and the Oculus Move controllers once they do come out? I'm not going to give a yes or no answer to that just yet because the controllers just simply aren't out yet. But one thing I can say is, hypothetically, if it were possible that I were able to make this game for Oculus Rift, even if that were true, I would totally wholeheartedly recommend the Vive version, because the Vive version is just made for this game for many reasons. Both just because room scale is better on the Vive, and the Vive is actually built for room scale, whereas the Oculus, you can kind of set up your cameras to mostly do room scale, and from what I've heard, it can do like kind of room scale okay. But also just the differences in the controllers. The Vive controller is just shaped more like a sword. So when you're holding it in your hand, you can hold it two-handed, you can hold it one-handed, you can even flip it around and hold it backwards like that, which you probably saw me do a bunch of times earlier in the video. And something about that just makes this sword feel even more real. And then even just like the shape of the wand up here lining up with the handguard of the sword in the video game, it just makes it like you feel like so much like you're holding a sword. The Oculus controllers, they might be okay if you're holding the hand or the sword one-handed, and maybe you'll be able to line them up so it still mostly feels like a sword. But the Vive controller is just always going to feel more like a sword and give you much more freedom to hold the sword how you want. And I'm like just looking at the sword, and I can reach out and like pick it up and like hold it the way I would hold a real sword. And I don't know, it just feels very sword-like, and it adds a heck of a lot to the immersion of this game. So I guess one thing I need to talk about more that I haven't talked about enough yet is actually the core gameplay of this game so far. So you've probably been able to pick up a bunch of things just by watching me play it, but there are a couple of key factors that really make this game fun. First of all, the major key factor, like I said, is that to get a swing, you actually have to really swing or really stab. Yeah, as you can see, that wasn't even a hard enough stab. I have to like actually stab. I believe the game Raw Data, I've heard that they require you to like actually swing the sword or to do damage. Oh, and he just got me. And as you can see, the other guy, the knight or whatever he can hurt you as well as you hurting him. And really, he just tracks your head and a little bit of your torso, because that's really all I can accurately track with the Vive. If, like, a year from now, Vive 2.0 comes out and they have, like, a chest piece or something, I'd be able to do more collisions. But, I mean, even so far, you tend to completely forget that he can't hit below your waist. And I mean, he doesn't really swing for that area anyways. He really tries to go more for your head and your torso, because those are the spots you try to go for in real sword fights. Um, and that alone is actually awesome enough that it lets you do a whole bunch of dodging, and it like really makes a difference when you're fighting this guy, as you could see a lot. And you can, he got me anyways, twice there. And I don't know for sure if I'm probably not gonna make it a one-hit kill game, at least for the player. Right now it's one-hit kill for the AI. If you get him in a vital spot, you can swing at his like legs and stuff. I didn't swing hard enough there. You can swing at his legs and it'll make blood come out, but it doesn't do any damage to him. Um, to actually kill him, you have to get him in his torso, in between the gaps in his armor. Like you'll see, if I just, when he comes back, if I just hit him in the chest plate or in the helmet, it will just bounce right off and it won't do any damage to him. So I really have to aim. See, I just hit him in the chest piece there. Didn't do any damage. There we go, I just stabbed him in the armpit. So one of my goals about this game is to probably make it the most active as I possibly can, because I think something about an active game just makes it like 10 times more immersive. I mean, of course, there's a lot of other ways to make your games immersive in the Vive, like, for example, Fantastic Contraption is hardly active at all, but one thing I think about Fantastic Contraption is that game requires you to move around and like pick things up, and it requires you to move a distance. So maybe that's what really is immersive in Vive games. But for this game, you move quite a bit of a distance to play, but you do it in like a really intense, like action fighting, fast way. So it's both a workout and both immersive, and really make you feel like you're in the game. So, in my playtesting so far, one thing I've noticed that a lot of people do when they first play the games, they tend to just kind of wiggle the sword in the guy's face, and as you can see, that does absolutely nothing in this game. And I totally want to do that on purpose, because I don't want a game where you can just wiggle the sword in the guy's face and you win. There are a few sort of fighting games that are kind of like that right now, but everything about this game that like every design decision that I've made so far has pretty much been things that encourage the player to move around and try different things and go from different angles. Like that's part of the reason why I decided to make his shield extra big, and every time he like blocks really well. So it's really hard to get past his shield. So if you want to get past his shield, you have to move around and you have to dodge his attacks and wait for openings in his animations. And if you just want to stand here and just kind of do the bare minimum, you really are going to lose pretty quickly. I mean, you, to a degree, can just stand here and block his attacks and wait for openings and play the game without ever, like, moving your feet around. And I guess that's kind of a realistic thing. If you were a good sword fighter, you could do that in real life with your sword. Uh, but you know, this game it really rewards you for moving around, and it's a very viable strategy. Um, and I really want to make it so that you know, as the game progresses and there's different versions of enemies that progressively get harder, it's going to really make you so that you cannot progress in the game unless you're like really moving and really sword fighting, because I just think that's like 10 times more fun. Let me see if I can do it again. Ah, man. See, just standing doesn't work too much. There we go. There was a little bit of a dodge that I did without moving too much, but even then, like, I had to really use my abs to do that quick dodge move. And if you don't use your knees, you really can't dodge enough to really dodge his attacks. So, I don't know. I don't think there's really any way around it. You have to be active to play this game. Alright, well, I guess that's everything for this update. We'll have another update, hopefully in the near future on this channel. You know, just like every single Vive game, this Vive game is also going to need a ton of player feedback, because I totally cannot predict how people are going to play this game, and getting it in people's hands as early as possible so far seems to be the best answer for Vive games. Just look at the game like Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. That developer is super awesome, and like updating the game every week and getting a bunch of feedback from players, and always being a part of the community and all that. So I would love to take inspiration from him and make my game you know, the same way he's making his. I think that seems like an excellent way to make a game in a world that's like completely new and completely different than the way video games have been for the last 20 years. So anyways, hope you're looking forward to this game, and it's a hell of a lot of fun so far, and I cannot wait to release more. So until my next video, I will see you later, and keep making games. You killed me.